So today I went into the thick and went out exploring and adventuring into the Australian bush. In this rainforest I could have faced various random encounters against dangerous foes such as killer spiders and giant bloody snakes. But thankfully for me, the only creatures of note I saw today was the rare lyrebird and countless bloody turkeys. Turkeys are not the first thing that comes into my head when I think of rainforest creatures, but they appear to be more common here than Pidgeys and Rattatas in the Pokemon world. But speaking of Pokemon, that's the wrong bloody RPG series you came here for. Today is all about the Mana series and its many secrets. Yeah! Secret of Mana over the years has become somewhat of a classic and a very popular game. It is perhaps the most second well-known action RPG on the whole Super Nintendo platform. This is only of course if we include Link to the Past in that bracket too, otherwise it would be instantly number one. But please don't swap my comment section over that throwaway remark. The Zelda RPG debate has got very old and boring. As popular and well known as Secret of Mana is today, I would think that the majority of people may perhaps not realise that this wasn't a standalone Square game, and there were in fact many other entries in the Mana series. Also, when I say majority, I mean everyday people, not RPG nerds. So also, please don't bother being pedantic in my comment section saying that everyone already knows about other Mana games, because they simply don't. Thank you! So, to give a quick briefing on the history of this series, the games are known as Seiken Densetsu in Japan, and the first Seiken Densetsu game was released originally on the Game Boy in 1993. In Japan, this monochromatic action RPG was titled simply Seiken Densetsu. In North America, it was titled Final Fantasy Adventure, and in PAL regions like Europe, it was titled as Mystic Quest. To make the naming of this title even more confusing, the game was given a full souped up remake in 2003 on the Game Boy Advance. This time the game was titled Shinyaku Seiken Densetsu in Japan and Sword of Mana in the rest of the world. So yeah, the first game I have featured on this channel with 5 bloody different names. Moving on to the more well-known sequel, Secret of Mana, this was released worldwide between 1993 and 1994 and was simply named Seiken Densetsu 2 in Japan. Now the third part of the Mana series is where things began to get even stranger. Seiken Densetsu 3, the game we'll be talking about in today's video, for some reason remained a Japan exclusive. The rest of the world got a completely different game titled Secret of Evermore. This game was developed in the United States of America and has a whole different theme and feel to the rest of the series. Basically, Square opened a US development studio and put them to task creating a more Americanized action RPG in the hopes of attracting more US RPG fans. Secret of Evermore, in my opinion, never did live up to the quality of Secret of Mana, but Seiken Densetsu 3 on the other hand was a different kettle of fish altogether. While Seiken Densetsu 3 may have never been officially localised for release outside of Japan, a small group of fans got together and translated the game themselves, so gamers in other parts of the world could finally enjoy this game. This translated version of the game is often referred to as Secret of Mana 2 and can easily be obtained by anyone. In my opinion, to claim that Seiken Densetsu 3 is an amazing action RPG would be a gross understatement. Secret of Mana is already regarded as one of the greatest games of its genre on the Super Nintendo, and its sequel, Seiken Densetsu 3, basically does everything a good sequel should do and more. Essentially, the game takes many of the better aspects of Secret of Mana and improves upon them. The music is great, the visuals are far more detailed, and the gameplay has an even more strategic feel to it this time around. The game is set 1,000 years prior to Secret of Mana, making the bloody naming and chronology of this series even more freaking annoying. Basically, a bunch of horrible people wanted the coveted power of mana for themselves. It's basically like what is going on in the world at the moment, with all the different baddies arguing with each other over nuclear arms. So yes, the overall story is pretty similar to most JRPGs, but its execution is quite well done, I suppose. The first big departure from Secret of Mana is that the player can choose from 1 to 6 potential characters before even beginning the game. Each of them has a different tower to progress through. These tales range from Hawkeye being framed for the murder of his friend, and to Angela being compelled to leave her station as princess rather than become a human sacrifice for her mother's ambitions. Choosing from 6 different characters means the game's story can progress and differ in 6 different ways. Early in each protagonist's story, he will run into the other 2 members of the party, and these 2 are also selected by the player at the beginning. There are 3 different sets of enemies the characters can come upon as their main antagonists. Each set of opponents will only be fought in 2 scenarios, although the other 2 will appear in every character's story. The gameplay elements from Secret of Mana have been carried directly over to Seiken Densetsu 3. This includes the sword swing and action style combat featured in its predecessor. This, however, has been tweaked and even further improved upon. Instead of waiting like before for your weapons to recharge after a swing, this game allows your sword to always feature the same power and strength. This time though, as you manage to land each hit on your foes, you see your tech gauge begin to fill up. When the tech gauge reaches a certain level, you'll then be able to perform a technique that can be anything from a very powerful melee attack to casting a useful spell. As within the game's predecessor, your other 2 party members will be controlled by the computer. However, you can adjust the settings on the menu to get them to perform the sort of combat actions you desire. Speaking of combat, the ring menu system also makes a return in this game. This innovative system makes selecting weapons, items and casting magic spells quick, easy and intuitive, which even includes during the heat of combat itself. Overall, the battles are even smoother and more action orientated than they were before, and even your fellow party members appear to behave a little bit less stupid than they did in Secret of Mana. These new elements combined with lovable older ones make this extremely lengthy game even more enjoyable than it was before, and the enjoyable combat system is sure to keep you glued to your television or monitor. Aesthetically, Seiken Densetsu 3 is a pleasure to look at. It is simply one of the finest looking games on the Super Nintendo platform, and is right up there with the likes of Terranigma, another often overlooked action RPG I've covered on this channel. In terms of 2D visuals, everything in this game looks bloody top notch. The sprites for each character look good and are extremely well animated. Casting spells feature good effects, and the enemies look simply ravishing. As far as 2-dimensional worlds go, the beauty and splendour of the world within Seiken Densetsu 3 is unparalleled. From the towns and villages to the natural landscapes such as the mountains, caves and villages. Everything in this game looks like a work of art and is a cut way above that of Secret of Mana. Musically, the game features impressively over 60 tracks, and like most SNES RPGs, this is yet another good one. However, as good as this game's soundtrack is, I don't think it is quite up there with the likes of Secret of Mana. But then again, I think that's probably one of the strongest game soundtracks of all time. Anyway, the game's music can be heard playing throughout this video, so therefore you can make your own judgments on how you think it sounds. Some other cool elements of this game is that it features a day-night system, which was quite rare and innovative for a game made in the mid-90s. Apparently you can even play 3-player cooperative multiplayer in this game, using a multi-tap, which could be fun and enjoyable. However, one cannot verify this, as I hate people and don't have any friends. People who like playing RPGs don't have social skills. That would be bloody ludicrous. So anyway, the game has super impressive graphics, animations, gameplay, etc. But the game can get a tad repetitive at points here and there. This is in my opinion because the game appears to be much bigger and longer than the previous Mana game. So due to this, you can find yourself grinding for levels in long sessions on even more occasions than you did previously. From what I can remember, if you include all of the grinding, the game probably takes about 50 hours to complete, so this is an extremely long game considering when it was released. Overall though, the 50-hour length is more of a positive rather than a negative, as Seiken Densetsu 3 is an odyssey which I felt glad to be a part of. So to draw my final thoughts on this game, I would say it is probably one of my favourite RPGs of all time never to see a Western release. I will put it right up there with Mother 3 as one of my favourite Japanese exclusives. Fortunately for the West though, this was not the last ever Mana game, and future entries saw releases in the West too. Sadly though, none of the other games in the series ever reached the same heights of that of Seiken Densetsu, but let's hope one day they will try to do it again. So, in regards to Seiken Densetsu 3, why did it not receive a Western release? Was it due to Secret of Evermore and Square wanting to feed more American food to the West? Well no, the real answer is even more boring than that. Basically, the game is so big it would have been extremely difficult at the time to fit an English translated version on a SNES cartridge. Our words have far more characters in them, you see, so they take up more room. Even the story of Secret of Mana had to be majorly dumbed down to make an English version possible on the Super Nintendo, so we missed out on this one due to technical limitations more than anything else. All three of the original games have just been re-released on one cartridge for the Nintendo Switch over in Japan, so Western fans at present are eagerly begging Japan to release a translation of this game for the Nintendo Switch. However, in my opinion, there is no bloody point. What are you going to do? Wait for Nintendo to make one? Firstly, this is unlikely to happen as they have better things to do than translate a 20-year-old game. But secondly, why do you even need them to translate it anyway, you loonies? Why do you want to pay $80 to buy it on the Nintendo Switch when you can already play it completely for free online? Talk about crazy fanboys, they literally are saying to Square, shut up and take my money, despite already having the opportunity to play it completely for free. This is why we are not allowed nice things, ladies and gentlemen, because people want to waste their money on games they can already play for free, rather than forcing companies' hands to create new titles. I shall be giving Mario Kart 8 Deluxe the miss for exactly the same reason, as I have owned it for 4 years already on my Wii U. Anyway, I am digressing, so just get out there and play Seiken Densetsu 3. I think it is one of the most underrated gems of all time. Yeah! Thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. I would like to hear from all of you. That would be bloody lovely. Anyway, shout outs to Jarrett Tolzian, Mad 8 Productions, Andrew Basansky, Peter Dawn, Mike Frost, Edward O'Reilly and all of my other patrons. Thank you for all of your support. Yeah! If you'd like to be added to this prestigious list of patrons, then check out my Patreon page. You would help a very nice man out. Ta-ta and farewell.